There's only one difference between an Exmark and a Toro. I'm here to educate, I'm here to enlighten. Toro versus Exmark. Is Exmark the premier mower compared to Toro? I'm here to debunk some of the myths of Toro versus Exmark. We're doing an apples to apples comparison. So what we're looking at for Exmark here is a Radius S-Series mower with Exmark. They make a Quest, then they make the Radius, and then they go on to the Laser Z, their top of the line mower. And you know, Toro kind of has the same thing going on. They've got the Time Cutter series, the Titan series, and then Z Master. The equivalent in models today is this Radius S series, and we'll talk about the Toro, which is a 2000 series Z Master. So as we walk around the Exmark, we're looking at some of the components. This happens to have the independent suspension platform. This is not what you see on every Exmark or every Toro. We just happen to have this very lightly used mower come through the shop. This only has about 100 hours on it, so I think this is only a couple years old. It's really good. We can kind of lay eyes on and look at these things side by side. And as we go around the mower, like I said, this one has that independent suspension, and if you continue to go around, this one has the Exmark branded engine, and the Toro, that is the equivalent we're trying to compare, is a 2000 series HDX. If we're looking at a baseline 2000 series, this guy over here happens to be that. We can look back at the engine on this guy, and this happens to be the Toro branded engine. Well, they look pretty similar, don't they, as you look from one to the other. So I'm going to kind of just start walking back and forth and comparing some of the things between these two mowers. So if I had a Toro 2000 series, which happened to be this mower over here that we glanced at, these would be the exact same trim line, I would say. We're looking at a 2000 series HDX, which gets you a little bit better engine. So you'll notice the engine's not identical as what's in that Exmark. So this 2000 series Z Master, the HDX model, that gets you some of these upgrades, you know, like the upgraded engine, the lights, and it's got upgraded transmissions. This has Hydro Gear ZT 3800cc pumps, and this one over here, it's an S series. You know, Exmark goes E, S, then X. So without me being an Exmark dealer, I can't tell you that exact difference, but I got to imagine if you move to an X series, if they offer that in a Radius, you're going to get bigger transmissions. This one has 3100cc Hydro Gear transmissions. So to me, that's kind of interesting. This is Exmark's middle tier. And then over here, this other one that does not have the MyRide suspension, that one happens to have 3400cc pumps. So even the Z Masters, they seem to have slightly larger pumps than the Radius series. Now I will say, if you look, you know, we compare the Toro Titan models. Many Toro Titan models have ZT 2800cc pumps, and then you'll see the Exmark Radiuses having 3100cc pumps. So it's not to say that Toro is better, they're putting bigger transmissions. It really, there's this constant flux of different things going on. If you compare the Time Cutters to the Quest, then the transmissions may be, depending on which model, equal to each other. And then you have a Radius series, which might be ever so slightly better than a lower line Toro Titan series. And then if you go to the Z Master series, it starts to surpass, and we just kind of go back and forth all the way up to the point that you have a Toro 6000 series Z Master versus an Exmark Laser Z X series. And that's when you'll see really the exact same components, because I want to walk around these mowers right now, and you're going to start to see they're built at the same place. Toro owns Exmark, guys. So it's not like Exmark is better than Toro. I've got people going through my shop. You know, we've been established in Jackson here for a little over a year, and they're telling me, oh, I didn't even know that Toro made commercial mowers. And they're thinking that the Exmark is kind of that commercial brand. Well, I want to debunk that, because we've got two of baseline commercial mowers here. You can clearly see that we've got pretty much an identical product. Look around the mower, look at the front caster pieces. These are identical frames on here. You've got differences in color as we go through. The frames are the same thing, except colored differently, all the way up to the seats that look near identical, to how you adjust your deck height as you go back and forth. And you guys can obviously see these things are made in the same plant. So Exmark's not better than Toro. Toro is equivalent to Exmark. You think of the GMCs versus the Chevys, and maybe people think of that GMC as that little bit more premium product. You know, Toro owns Exmark. You're gonna see the exact same components, just ever so slightly different builds as far as the styling on these mowers go. But let's look around these mowers, and then let's just think of the whole line, you know, that Toro has versus Exmark. Like I said, the time cutters are equivalent to the Quests. Some of the Titans are equivalent to the Radius series, and then you have a bit of a crossover. And of course, as I talked about, the Toro Z Master 6000 series is the equivalent to the Exmark Laser Z X series. So these two things are equal, and we want to dive in. If I put a Toro Titan Max, which you guys are seeing on the screen right now, and I put it identically next to this Exmark Radius without the suspension, you'd be looking at near identical mowers. That's kind of where that cross happens for Exmark and Toro. But as you go across, if you show me an Exmark, I can show you the equivalent Toro. They're built in the same factories. Toro owns Exmark. They've been bought out a fair bit ago. Again, we're just trying to debunk Exmark being that premium product versus the Toro. Really, we believe you should be making that buying decision based on the dealer in your area. You shouldn't necessarily lean more Exmark or more Toro. I think, you know, it's who you're going to be working with in your area. Here's the one difference. There's only one difference between an Exmark and a Toro, and it's the deck. So I have also heard the myths, the rumors. Exmark's quality of cut, you cannot beat it. I've heard of some of these other, you know, the premium brands out there like the Skags and some of these others. Well, let's look at these decks between Exmark and Toro, because that is the one difference between these products. If we look and flash across the front of this deck here for Exmark, you'll see this kind of bottom trim line and this fabricated piece of metal and how thick that is. It's nice and robust. And we look over to the Toro side. Toro is known for having the Turbo Force deck, which comes with this bull-nosed edge. The two that we're looking at, and I can't speak to all Exmarks, I gotta believe they change as you go up in trim line, but you know, as you look around, you got a little bit difference here with this bull-nosed, a little bit tougher construction, and you have two pieces of metal protecting this wheel up here, and if you look over to the Exmark side, you're just getting one, so you got a little bit better protection point. I want to say that if you go up in trim line with the Exmark, you'd probably see some features like that. I'm sure if you guys have some Exmark Laser Zs, I gotta believe they're double covered there. But as we go across, you can see a difference in the flap. Toro has a rubber flap that goes across there. I do think that's a little bit better by Toro. I think if you look at the Exmark Laser Zs, I think that this is consistent all the way up to the top on this. So they're using a hardened piece of plastic versus the rubber chute. I know a lot of guys take those off, to be honest, anyway. They put a mulch kit or just, you know, different attachments, so that's not really a big difference. But even down, you know, to the fact that these decks are different, you can see the details, like the steps right here, and then you go over to this side, it happens to be the exact same piece. Look at these plastic covers from one to the other. They happen to be the exact same, but it's those components under the deck that will, you know, vary as you go from one to the other. They have the Ultra Cut deck on Exmark, and that's what Exmark people tell you gives them a better quality cut. Now, I have people coming in telling me that they don't see anything that's a better quality cut than a Toro. Of course, I've heard the same things on the Exmark side, so which one is better? If we put these side by side and you looked at these two cutting graphs, I really don't think that you see a difference. I think the quality of cut on a Toro is phenomenal. I think the Exmark is probably as good. If you talk to my Toro rep, he'd say this is a little better, I'm sure. If I talk to an Exmark rep, he'd say the same. So those are really the main differences. Even with that, I'm showing you some of the components on the deck happen to be pretty much the exact same, but it's those under components that are different. But I'll say this, if you guys are the Exmark guys chattering in the background saying that, no, this is a better quality cut, do you think that all of the golf courses in the world, do you think that there is a better standard for quality of cut than that? I don't think so. I think that they're only gonna try to have the absolute best quality cut they can possibly get on the golf courses themselves. So different, but I still think you're getting premium quality cuts in either case. Well, I wanted to put these two side by side so you can see in this some of the exact same components left to right. You know, we've shown some other things on the screen of how we've got two equivalent models. What do you guys think? Are some of you guys still swearing to say Exmark is better than Toro, or are there Toro junkies on the other side saying that Toro is better than Exmark? I hope you kind of see in this case, Toro equals Exmark, which is totally fine. Now we want to try to separate ourselves here at How Equipment and be a phenomenal dealer that people want to pick the Toro side maybe instead of the Exmark side. You may have a surrounding dealer that has Toro and Exmark, and really whatever they stock is probably fine to pick at that point. You know, we stock a lot of Toro parts and they're interchangeable with Exmark parts because as you guys can see, these guys are built you know, on that same platform. So I hope this was informative to you guys, and I hope that you guys now understand the difference between Toro and Exmark, really just the decks. And I don't want to say that you got to pick one over the other just because of those deck differences, but thank you for tuning in, and until next time, over here at How Equipment, tool or toy, we have it.